From as long as I can remember, I had always wanted an interesting career. I wasn't interested in getting married and having babies right out of high school. One day, there was a 2 or 3 liner in the Star Phoenix that the department would be hiring 3 females the following year. And I thought, gee, now that would be interesting. I knew nothing about policing. The minimum height requirement was 5 feet 4 inches. So I applied and I listed my height, my accurate height is 5'3" 3/4 inches. So I received a letter back from the department saying, in essence, you will note that the minimum requirement is 5 feet 4. You've listed your height as 5'3" 3/4. In case you made a mistake, we're drawing this to your attention, then you can...
That was sweet. That was sweet.
So I corrected it.
I knew I wanted a job that was going to be exciting and fun and adventurous and that kind of thing too. And so I was just walking around downtown and I saw 2 police officers walking the beat. And I thought, wow, that's outdoors, that's working with people. Maybe that's the thing I should do. And so I went right to the police station and I said, I saw the personnel officer and I said, I want a job here. And he says, oh, well, all the secretaries are hired over at City Hall. So I said, no, not a secretary. I said, I want to be a police officer. And he said, oh, well, he says, how tall are you? Because I found out the height regulation had just been raised to 5'8". And so that would limit most women from getting on. But I said, I am 5'8". And he said, oh, I guess we're going to have to take your application then, aren't we?
In 1975, I was in the College of Law, and I heard about a program called the Law Student Program, and some of the older students who were in 2nd and 3rd year had done this with either the RCMP or Saskatoon. So I thought that sounded interesting, so I applied, and the summer of 1976, I was hired on to be a constable with the Saskatoon Police. Then I went back to my 2nd year of law school and decided I really didn't want to be a lawyer. So I joined full-time in the fall of 1978.
All the men had a clip-on tie, which, because if you get choked in a fight or something, the tie comes off, it doesn't. But they gave me an ascot tie that wrapped around and did in a big full subliminal message there, I'm sure. Do you remember the ascot tie?
I didn't get one.
No, you didn't.
No.
No, by the time you started, I was into a clip-on tie.
I must have. I can't quite remember. I don't know.
And I got issued a purse. A shoulder strap purse, and in the purse went your notebook and your pen and your gun and your handcuffs and your flashlight and but by the time I started, you were walking the beat, and so you were expected to respond to like a bar fight or something. but you have to hang on to your purse because it's got your gun in it. Like, it was crazy. It wasn't too long before I said, no, I'm just not doing this. I'm going to get a Sam
Yeah, they gave me a purse and a skirt too, but I never wore either one of them, and they didn't make an issue about it.
I never wore the purse or carried the purse because I said this is just a safety issue, not doing it.
But you know, I think what speaks so clearly as to what they thought of the future of women in policing was the fact that when we moved into the second police station on 4th Avenue, it was new to us in the fall of 1978. In order to get to the women's locker room, we had to walk through the men's locker room. Yeah. So we would walk through the first aisle of about, I guess there would have been about 15 or 18 lockers there, and we would have to go through that in order to get to our locker, which was at the other end, and then use a key to open it up. And I think that lasted for about a year before they did some modifications.
I think so, yeah.
But the initial locker, there was maybe room for 4, maybe 5 lockers. I don't think it was going to ever take off. Yeah. And for some reason, they wouldn't let us have belt loops on our pants. We didn't have a dress belt, so that meant that the equipment belt, they call it the Sam Brown, was always, roaming around your waist someplace. So I had to get my seamstress to actually secretly put belt loops on for me so that I could attach my Sam Brown to something. We had our pants specially made for us for a number of years. I can't remember how long, until they finally found a manufacturer who actually made women's uniform pants.
I remember when I started, they said, okay, you can't wear a real shirt like the men, like the blue shirts. You have to wear a blouse. Okay, and so I had to, well, I got a skirt, but I didn't have to wear it. But to go get a blouse, I went with the quartermaster to Sears, just the two of us, and looked through the ladies' wear department, and we finally found 2 blue blouses of the same size and style, so he bought those for me. That was my uniform shirt. Now, there was no pocket in it. Everyone else carries their pen and everything in their pocket. There was no pocket. When I tried to put the badge on it, there was no reinforced place for the badge, so the material just kind of sagged and started to rip. And this was the shirt I got. And so when I don't know, a few months later, handed in these 2 ripped shirts, and they said, okay, well, just here's a regular shirt, I guess.
But the men's shirts were so long, the tails hung way down. And when we first started getting bulletproof vests, they were men's vests as well. So they were too high here when you sat down, and they were too wide. So if you stood underneath a street lamp, you ran the risk of having moths go down inside your vest, which happened to me. Did not? It happened to me, yes. And then we got women's vests about late 80s, I guess. We actually got vests that were tailored for women, so it was a big change.
Well, we weren't issued the boots.
No, we had to buy our own boots at some army surplus store because they didn't make men's boots,
And I remember, I'd never told Coleen this, but the first time I saw the boots that you were wearing, I was just aghast.
What did she have on? Army boots, I guess.
Yeah, like regular army boots, and I was just wearing the black Oxford shoes. They had chunky heels. They're often referred to as high heels. Well, they really weren't. I mean, they were just kind of a block heel.
But you were 5'4" in them.
Well, yeah. But I thought, oh my God, no. And Coleen was she was the trailblazer when it came to
the uniform, yes.
With the uniforms, yeah.
And our hats, when we all first started, I think we had.
It was the bowler hat I had.
I thought it was the soft one that we had.
No,
I had the bowler, the hard bowler at first. I think you had it too.
Yeah.
With a little rim around it.
And in those days, you had to wear your hats in the car. You couldn't take them off in the car.
And it was quite high. It would hit the, And then we went to the soft ones, which shrunk in the rain. So if you ever wore them in the rain, then you had to go down to the quartermaster and put it on the stretching machine so that you could fit it again. And then we had a petition to go to the men's staff caps, which we got in trouble for because we weren't allowed to have petitions. And but then we got the men's staff caps 89, 90, something around like that. So now the hats are the same. One of my favorite memories is when it got really cold. I forget what the definition of cold was back then, but we could wear the buffalo coats. And if it was if there was a snowfall and your coat got wet, you spent the entire night, you smelled like a wet dog, a big wet dog. And you know, really they weren't very safe, because if you had to get at your gun or anything else, you simply couldn't. I mean, this coat weighed probably, what, 15 pounds?
Oh,
it was
probably more than that.
Yeah, it was more than that.
But were they ever warm? Oh my, yeah.
But you guys must have been swimming.
Well, they were roomy, yes, they were.
I was walking Broadway one night with my partner, and the guy comes up and he stands right in front of me, and he looks me right in the face and he says, you know, he says, I know it's really cold out here, he says, but you look ridiculous.
I was walking the beat on the 20th Street area one night, and a guy, I don't know if he was an older man in a truck, and he stopped and he backed up, he looked at me and he got out and he says, I can't believe that they have a policewoman walking the beat down here in the middle of the night. This is not right, this is not right. I'm going down to the station, I'm going to complain to the police chief, and I'm going to have a stop put to this. Wow, just don't do that. Like, but, you know, I mean, some people were outraged by our jobs.
And the first time I had another woman in the car with me, people were just aghast. Oh my God, they let two of you out, you know. Yeah.
Or when Trish and I walked the beat together.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was in plainclothes one night. I went with a morality officer to a sudden death, and we spent quite a bit of time there, and the landlady of the apartment building spent some time with us as well. Later on, I moved into that building and got to know her really well, and she said, you know, Joanne, she says, that time when you came up here with the officer for that sudden death, she said, I thought he was bringing his girlfriend, and I was just really disgusted.
Corporal Joanne Balint is a supervisor in the Information Center. Over the years, she's had the opportunity to work in various sections of the service.
Every day is different. Each time I get a new assignment, it's like a brand new job. And just about the time you start getting maybe a little bit bored with what you're doing, you've got a new assignment and it's like a whole new job.
We were definitely objects of curiosity, major curiosity. I didn't experience any overt discrimination or I don't even know the word. But I mean, I guess I knew it was there. I mean, when you're coming into an all-male profession and it's something so new, I mean, the guys were they just didn't know what to make of us. And an interesting thing I found over the following years, there was an awful lot of support from the elderly police officers.
I found
less
that
so,
too. Yeah.
less so amongst the young men.
I remember when I started, we had to do a sort of intelligence test. There was spelling and there was a geography thing. And I remember the map of Canada, and you had to put the capital cities of, you know, in all the provinces, you know, as part of the thing. And I puzzled over this because I've never been to the Maritimes, and I just, don't know. And I just kept tapping my pencil, and everyone else seemed to be, I was starting to get a little anxious. And then it was Harry Guest again. He's supervising, and he walks down the hall. He stops beside my desk and he has a pencil and he points to St. John, and then he points to me. Didn't say a word, nobody else saw it.
He
But
was the
he's
sweetest.
just like really rooting for us, you know?
There I was, all by myself, and I got a phone call from the, I guess he was the deputy chief at the time, not somebody that, you know, that I knew or whatever, but he was very, very nice. We talked for a while about, you know, some of the things that I was concerned about. And he said, you know, Joanne, he said, if you can hang on for a while, he said, we are looking at starting a new section. It had to do with airport security, and all the airports at the time were implementing these new sections. And he said we felt a woman would be a real asset because it was, you know, dealing with intelligence and all that sort of stuff. And he said if you can hang on for a while, he said that, you know, we'll put you out there. And so that's what happened eventually. Probably towards the end of my second year, I think, I went out to the airport and spent 2 years out there, and things kind of settled down, and you know, there were other women came on.
You were there already when I started.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it was a while before I even met you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a similar experience. I was walking the beat, and there had been just so much negativity, and I was just feeling really down. And every once in a while, the patrol sergeant would drive you around on night shift. They would stop and see how you're doing, and you know, if it was cold out, they'd give you a ride or something. But remember it was Dennis Lebrec. He picked me up, or he saw me. He says, you know, how are you doing? And I said, I'm just not doing very well right now, and I think I'm ready to pack it in. He says, okay, we'll hop in the car and we'll talk. And so we drove around, and I said, okay, well, just drive me to the station. He says, no. He says, we're going to drive around for a while. And so he's talking and talking and talking and talking.
Talking.
A couple hours later, like, he would not take me to the station. He talked until he had talked me down off that ledge.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
One of the girls that I became friends with in Central Records, she said, oh yeah, when you girls came on, she said, we had a pool going to who would be the first one to get married and have marry a policeman and have babies. I was the only one that lasted, the girl next door.
It was quite lonely being
Yes.
our officers, because we were all on different platoons at the time. There was 8-hour shifts, and we were A, B, and C. And personally, I was on B platoon, and I was the only female on my shift for 10 years. So the locker room was pretty lonely.
Other than that, I think everybody was really supportive, especially my dad.
My dad too. That was what I was going to say. My dad was just, yeah, get him. You know, he was always excited. He wanted to hear the war stories, you know, and he was just so proud. And yeah.
But mom's not so much.
Oh, Mom would be, oh, Coleen, what are you doing? You know, she was worried sick all the time and just a flutter. But no, Dad was just, he was my support.
And older women, old ladies, would come up to me when they figured out I wasn't a postal worker. They were really supportive of what we were doing.
But it's funny, my parents did say that they thought I changed quite a bit when I joined, because you had to develop quite a thick skin. You had to learn to give it as well as you got it. And so, yeah, you did get a little bit hardened, I think.
At one point, somebody from the traffic sections decided that there should be a woman on a motorcycle patrol, you know, so they sent out word that Joanne and I did one of us want to be on the motorcycle.
Did I want to be?
Well, you said, oh gee, the next thing you know I'll be peeing standing up. And I didn't want to be on a motorcycle either, but I thought it was so nice that they at least asked us.
I don't remember that.
Oh, Joe, it was hilarious.
aside from patrol, I think the longest I worked was in investigative work, which I think I did a good job, and I really, really enjoyed. It was primarily domestic violence and sexual assaults. And, forgot about the Child Center. I spent about 6 years at the Child Center doing historical and child abuse cases. And that was, well, in retrospect, probably my least favorite, because there was a lot of pressure, the workload was crushing. It was really bad. But I really did like investigative work.
Rotational training, so that was some investigative work. And then I spent quite a number of years in IDENT, which is kind of a crime scene investigative unit. So doing a lot of crime scene work, and I really enjoyed that,
Is that where you retired from?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I got the Staff Sergeant of sort of like a special assistance to patrol, so I had K9 and the air support and all of that. So yeah, and that's where I retired from, and that was probably one of my, well, no matter where I went, I just really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. There was pros and cons to wherever you were, but no, I had some really good positions and great people to work with. I never thought about quitting, even though my very first day back at work after police college, I worked a 3 to 11, and later that night, Constable Brian King was killed on the outskirts of Saskatoon. And looking back on it years later, I thought, if anything should have terrified me, it was that. But for some strange reason, it didn't. And I think I was just naive, maybe, or the fact that when you put on that uniform, you felt absolutely invincible.
I remember that, and it just sort of galvanized resolve, like we are part of an awesome organization, and this is really important.
And you carry an awful lot of junk on you.
I was just looking at that.
No, I know.
Is it still called a Sam Brown? And
I think it's important for young officers, male and female, to really get a chance to experience the world more than just high school, some university.
yes, I agree.
I came in so naive.
Me too.
In hindsight, that
Me
was
too.
a detriment to me. I remember the first time I went to a call and someone had spray painted "Go Home DP" on this guy's fence, and I had no idea what DP stood for.
Yeah.
And I had to ask the man, and he looked at me and he said, "Oh my, you are young, aren't you?" You know, you just have to know your
Yeah.
history, and especially dealing now with immigrants and everything else. I think it's really important that people joining know more than just their own backyard. We still have get-togethers of the retired people. We used to all have get-togethers when we were still working, and then it got so that there was too many women and no one could all get the time off that we wanted. So we knew then that we'd made it when we realized there was too many women to have our annual Christmas party. But now that we're retired, we still get together.